Welcome to Dev Trends on the Go. Today's Qiita picks for June 13th, 2026. This selection is perfect for your commute. And for our global listeners who might be tuning in, Qiita is basically Japan's most popular knowledge-sharing platform for software engineers. It's essentially the Japanese developer community's version of Dev.to or Medium.
Yeah, it really gives us a great look at what everyone in the industry is talking about right now. Oh, and before we get started, please just take a quick second to subscribe and like the show. Your support directly helps us bring you these curated engineering insights every single day.
So the biggest news right now is coming out of Qiita 2026. That's Japan's largest offline TypeScript conference, and they drew massive crowds this year. They announced that the upcoming TypeScript 7.0 compiler, which is codenamed Corsa, is being entirely rewritten from TypeScript into Go.
Wait, rewritten into Go? I mean, TypeScript has always prided itself on being self-hosting, right? Like, the compiler itself was written in TypeScript. Why would they completely abandon that tradition?
Well, the core development team basically hit a wall with the traditional self-hosted model. As modern codebases have just grown exponentially, the heavily nested, often circular type structures demand, like enormous computational resources. The standard V8 JavaScript engine just really struggles to manage that kind of sustained memory pressure.
Right, yeah, that makes sense.
But, the functional paradigms and structural similarities between Go and TypeScript make porting the code base pretty straightforward. The real advantage, though, is how Go handles memory. Its internal memory management prevents the system from just consuming excessive resources when untangling those incredibly complex, abstract syntax trees.
Oh, I see. So it's kind of like if your code base is essentially a massive, tangled string of Christmas lights. The old system was like a single person trying to untangle the whole thing at once, constantly running out of floor space. But Go is like having an entire team of highly efficient filing clerks with, unlimited desk space, just instantly snipping the bad knots out of the wire without breaking a sweat.
Yeah, that actually captures the structural advantage perfectly. It really comes down to garbage collection. Garbage collection just means the system automatically frees up computer memory that a program is no longer using.
Oh, right. Okay.
Because Go manages that garbage collection far more deterministically than a Node.js environment, the compiler doesn't just randomly freeze up to clean the memory space. Plus, Go utilizes lightweight execution threads known as coroutines. That allows the compiler to perform complex type checking and syntax parsing simultaneously through parallel processing.
Got it. But practically speaking, how much time are we actually saving here? Like, are we talking about shaving off a few seconds, or is this a complete game changer for daily development?
Oh, it's a complete game changer. The compile times drop dramatically. For instance, compiling the entire VS Code repository dropped from roughly 78 seconds down to just 7.5 seconds using the new Corsa compiler.
Wait, 78 down to 7.5? That is just wild.
Yeah, and we are seeing similar exponential performance gains across other massive open source projects too. Like the TypeORM framework dropped from 17.5 seconds to 1.3 seconds, and the Playwright testing library compiled in just 1.1 seconds.
That is an unbelievable quality of life improvement. So really, if you are working in a massive TypeScript code base and you are tired of staring at a loading screen during every single build, this is going to save you hours of waiting every single week. Basically, TypeScript is getting a massive under-the-hood speed boost.
Absolutely. Now, the next one is interesting, especially if we're talking about shedding unnecessary baggage to speed up development. There is a highly trending CSS update that finally allows developers to add borders directly inside Flex and Grid layout gaps.
Oh man, front-end layouts have always required those incredibly frustrating verbose workarounds just to draw a simple dividing line between two columns. You usually end up writing like a dozen lines of extra styling just to make sure the border doesn't look terrible on mobile screens.
Exactly, but now developers can just use the column rule and row rule properties to style the spaces between elements directly. You just specify the exact width, style, and color values natively, just like you would with a standard CSS border property, without adding any extra structural HTML.
Wait, really? So you mean we don't have to use weird pseudo-elements or target the last child just to remove awkward borders at the very end of a dynamic list anymore?
Yeah, you no longer need those brittle CSS selectors at all. The browser calculates the layout boundaries automatically now. It inserts the decorative rule only between the layout items, completely ensuring that the line never bleeds over the outer edges of the container, even when the content wraps to a new line.
That removes so much friction. Just to be completely clear for anyone who hasn't built a modern interface recently, what exactly are we defining as a gap in this context?
Good question. Flex and grid gaps simply refer to the empty space the browser automatically creates between items in a modern web layout. By targeting that space directly with the generic rule shorthand property, the styling applies to both row and column gaps simultaneously, ensuring a consistent visual separation.
That is incredibly clean. So if you are a front-end developer looking for cleaner, more maintainable CSS without constantly relying on hacky visual workarounds, this is a massive win. Say goodbye to messy border hacks and CSS layouts.
Moving on, that same philosophy of starting with a clean slate applies perfectly to a practical strategy currently trending on Qiita. It's about how to optimize efficiency when managing AI coding agents, like Claude Code or GitHub Copilot, specifically regarding when to keep a chat going versus starting a completely fresh thread.
How would you actually use this next one at work? Because I definitely noticed my AI assistant getting extremely confused and making bizarre logic leaps after a long debugging session. It starts, suggesting variables that don't exist anymore or trying to rewrite functions we already fixed an hour ago.
Yeah, that's a widely documented phenomenon known as the lost in the middle problem. As long AI context windows begin to degrade, the large language model's attention mechanism struggles to weigh the importance of older text. The Qiita author suggests viewing your AI's context window as either an asset or a liability. When the history contains too many failed debugging attempts or discarded approaches, it becomes a liability that actively poisons the model's ongoing output.
Well, it makes total sense. It is just like a messy whiteboard. Sometimes it's significantly faster to snap a photo of the board, wipe it completely clean, and start drawing fresh, rather than trying to squeeze brilliant new ideas into the tiny margins around your previous mistakes.
That is a spot-on analogy. To prevent that degradation and mitigate the cost of wiping the board clean, the developer recommends externalizing your crucial project context. You do this by writing persistent rules, directory structures, and recent progress into a dedicated cleaute.md or spec.md file. The agent scans those specific files upon initialization, so it absorbs the guidelines without consuming excessive tokens in a long, confusing chat history.
Are there any specific coding practices that make this fresh start approach work better? I imagine if the code is just a massive plate of spaghetti, the AI is still going to struggle even with a clean chat history.
Yes, definitely. Keeping the code base strictly loosely coupled is absolutely essential so the AI doesn't have to reread massive interconnected files every time a new thread is started. Loose coupling just means different parts of your code don't rely too heavily on each other, allowing you to change one piece without breaking the rest.
Ah, I get it. When you enforce that architecture, the token consumption stays low because the agent only scans the isolated components it actually needs to edit. So if you are a daily user of AI coding assistants who wants to maintain high accuracy and lower token costs, treat your prompt history like a liability. Manage your AI's context like a physical workspace, clean it up regularly, and keep summaries handy.
Exactly. And speaking of optimizing what the AI reads, this next one is about a massive breakthrough in how data pipelines handle raw information. A data engineer successfully used a locally hosted AI model to scrub personal identifiable information, or PII, from messy speech-to-text audio transcripts after traditional validation tools completely failed.
Oh, that sounds a lot like trying to use regular expressions on spoken language, which must be an absolute nightmare for security tools. Spoken numbers inherently lack any consistent, predictable formatting.
Right, they really do. Traditional masking tools like Microsoft Presidio failed instantly because audio transcripts often spell out numbers strangely. For example, a phone number might be transcribed phonetically as 1031, so a rigid security scanner simply cannot recognize those erratic strings. The developer used AWS Strands agents connected directly to a local Llama model, specifically Qwen 3.5, but the critical architecture decision was explicitly forbidding the AI from rewriting the transcript text itself.
Wait, why forbid the rewrite? Do you mean they just use the AI as a highly intelligent highlighter?
Spot on. Generative models notoriously cause hallucinations or subtly alter the speaker's tone during translation tasks. So they ask the AI strictly to identify the location of the PII, outputting those coordinates as structured JSON. Then they use standard Python code to look at those coordinates and replace the original text with masking characters.
That is absolutely brilliant because it completely separates the complex pattern recognition from the actual data modification. But running a local model usually requires serious hardware. How do they manage the computational load?
They optimized it by intentionally switching to a significantly smaller, cheaper 4 billion parameter model. They achieve perfect extraction results after making a few crucial adjustments to the prompt instructions.
How do you stop a smaller AI model from getting totally confused and overmasking random words during a complex data extraction task like that?
The solution to the smaller model's accuracy drop was implementing few-shot prompting. Few-shot prompting just means giving the AI a few clear examples of what you want before asking it to actually do the task. By providing 5 or 6 examples of strangely formatted phone numbers in the prompt, the 4 billion parameter model executed the extraction flawlessly.
That is so smart. So this is incredibly useful for data engineers and security developers handling highly sensitive user data and raw transcripts. Basically, use AI to find the sensitive data, but rely on standard code to actually cover it up.
Quick question before we move on. What happens when you scale that kind of AI access up to an enterprise cloud database? Well, Oracle Autonomous AI Database Serverless is now directly available on AWS, and it features an advanced security architecture specifically designed to safely manage AI-generated queries.
Giving an external AI full natural language access to a massive corporate database sounds incredibly dangerous. If the user permissions aren't strictly locked down, the AI could just summarize the entire company's financial records for an intern.
Normally, yes, that is the big fear. Previously, deploying secure enterprise Oracle infrastructure on AWS required incredibly complex manual configuration. But now, developers can easily spin up this serverless database straight from the AWS marketplace. And the major breakthrough is Oracle's deep data security, which enforces strict identity-based access controls directly at the database execution level.
So how does this infrastructure actually secure the underlying data when someone asks a broad question?
It happens when querying the database using natural language to SQL. NL2 SQL, or natural language to SQL, simply means typing a question in plain English and having the AI automatically translate it into database code. When that translated code hits the database, the deep data security system evaluates the identity of the user making the request before returning any rows.
Wait, so you mean a doctor and a medical student could ask the exact same AI agent the exact same plain English question about patient recovery times, but they get completely different data back?
Precisely. The student will only receive statistical answers based on the specific patients they are explicitly authorized to view in the underlying system, even if the AI generated a sweeping command to search the entire hospital's records.
Oh, I love that. It operates exactly like having a strict bouncer standing at the very door of your database, carefully checking your ID and cross-referencing a VIP list before letting the AI fetch your requested answer.
That identity-aware execution ensures total compliance. This update significantly streamlines the workflow for back-end and cloud engineers building secure, enterprise-grade AI search features on AWS.
Right, so serverless Oracle databases on AWS are basically making enterprise AI both easier to deploy and much safer to query.
Well, that about wraps up our time for today. Remember to subscribe and like the show as we curate a brand new selection of picks to keep you updated on the industry every single day.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. And just a final thought to leave you with AI tools getting incredibly small and fast, like that 4 billion parameter local model we discussed today. What everyday sorting or reading tasks on your own machine could you soon hand over to a background AI without your personal data ever having to touch the cloud?
Have a great day and happy coding.